People become vegetarians for various reasons. Some want to prevent animal suffering, some because they want to eat healthier. What would happen if all people in the world, regardless of their motives, became vegetarians or vegans?
They told you the story. We tell you the truth. Welcome to FactSlicks.
As with any industry, meat production depends on market demand. The more people switch to veganism, the more plant-based products will be on the market shelves. Farmers will adapt by raising and slaughtering fewer animals, and will switch to planting quinoa, oats, or kale. If the change happened very quickly, in the worst-case scenario, farmers would abandon or slaughter the animals, while in the best-case scenario, they would send them to shelters. However, even the worst scenario is many times better than the sequel, in which billions of animals are slaughtered every year, artificially bred, locked in concentration camp-like facilities. Some people believe that we do animals a favor because we create their existence, and they return the favor with meat and skin for food and clothing. But no one has asked the animals, does that suit them? Would domestic animals really become extinct if we stopped eating meat? It is difficult to give a precise answer to this question. Most domestic animals would not be able to survive in the wild because they would die of various diseases, hunger, and attacks by other carnivorous animals. But at least they would have the opportunity to be free and live outside the system that constantly kills them. In addition, it is already well known what impact the breeding of domestic animals has on the environment. In order to create arable land, people destroy the natural habitats of wild animals and indirectly kill them. Their number, which is why wolves, for example, have become an endangered species. Yes, the average dairy cow excretes 55 kilograms of feces per day, the same as 20 to 40 adult humans. In addition to polluting drinking water with bacteria, ammonia, etc., it also disrupts air quality because livestock emit large amounts of methane, carbon dioxide, smog into the atmosphere. And what is the impact on climate change? Food production is responsible for 1/4 to 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions produced by humanity. Despite this data, it is often overlooked how our diet affects the environment. In the US, for example, a family of 4 emits more harmful gases by eating meat than by driving 2 cars. Most people do not think about the consequences that food production has on climate change. If only we could. If we ate just a little less meat, we would make the planet better for our children and grandchildren, says Tim Branton, a food expert at the University of Oxford, and his colleague Marco Springmann, a researcher at the Future of Food program at Oxford, tried to calculate exactly how much. Springmann and his team have created a program that can predict what would happen if everyone in the world became vegetarian or vegan by 2050. The data shows that greenhouse gas emissions associated with food production would fall by 60%, mostly due to the elimination of red meat. Incidentally, meat production takes up a lot of space on the planet, which results in both the production of greenhouse gases and deforestation in search of space. Currently, 68% of the world's land is occupied by meat production. If we gave up meat, that space could be reforested. Because in a vegetarian world, 80% of that land could be returned to nature, while the remaining 20% would be enough to grow the food needed to compensate for the elimination of meat from the diet. This would create a problem because all those people who work in the meat production chain today would need to be re-employed. Today, there are 3.5 billion heads of cattle in the world and tens of billions of poultry that humanity kills for food every year. So global vegetarianism would represent a great challenge due to habits and a number of practical problems. Without cattle, life in some areas would not be possible. Traditional Mongols, barbarians, and Tuaregs certainly would not be able to survive. There are also problems of preserving culture, traditions of religion, no matter how enormous the benefits of global civilizational vegetarianism would be. Such vegetarianism by 2050 would mean a reduction in mortality of up to 10% due to fewer heart attacks, diabetes, strokes, some types of cancer, as well as atherosclerosis. Vegetarianism would save, for example, 7 million lives annually. Veganism, even 8. The meat industry has its bad effects on the world, and if the world's population reduced its meat consumption by a smaller amount, the world would definitely be a slightly nicer place to live. Just a small change, smaller portions, or a smaller number of days when meat is on the table would have a significant impact for the better. But then again, complete veganism is not that healthy. Because when we do not consume foods of animal origin, we also do not consume vitamin B12, which we really need because it maintains the health of our nerves and blood cells, helps in the creation of DNA. A lack of this vitamin can lead to fatigue, weakness, constipation, unhealthy weight loss, nerve problems, and even depression. Also, A lack of calcium and iron is often a problem. However, the scenario of all people becoming vegetarians or vegans overnight is unlikely, but one thing is certain: a shift in nutrition will happen. Sooner or later, if the population continues to grow at this rate, by 2050 there will be over 9 billion of us on Earth, which means that there will not be enough land to live on, so we will have to take about 25% of the animals used for meat production. So whether we like it or not, we will have to reduce our meat intake.
They told you the story. We tell you the truth.